If you look at a iceberg,
Yep.
right? Like there's huge, massive mountain of ice, but no one looks below the surface to see just how massive that rock or mountain really is. So I'm trying to convince my people, like, listen, just because you can't see it yet doesn't mean that good things aren't happening.
Matt Pack,
What's up, man?
thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So again, we've known each other for a while.
Yep.
You're my neighbor here in the
Yeah.
shores.
Yeah.
And, always great bumping into you because, again, every time I leave, I'm leaving with some kind of nugget or some value. And like you were
Same
telling me,
here.
that's what you love to do as a coach, right?
Yeah, man. On every dog walk, I look for anybody I can help. We always run into each other, walking the dog right before we go to bed.
Yep. It's like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock hour, right? So just a heads up, if you're listening to that, you see Matt and I around those parts around that time.
And you'll get a nugget if you run into
it. Exactly. But I mean, like we were saying, as a coach, you kind of love that, right? Just naturally, you love to add value to people.
It just happens, you know? My mom was a school teacher. My dad is a carpenter, but we always did like Special Olympics and volunteer work. And my dad coached me in sports, me and my brother both. So I think it just kind of comes natural. And then I took this DISC test. It's a personality test from Tony Robbins, DISC test. I recommend everybody do it because it's super cool. It's very accurate. And it basically just told me that I'm a coach. It literally said coach.
Really?
I'm a high I influencer. So, or ISC. But anyway, it's really accurate, and it's like, wow, this is what I'm born to do. Yeah. I do feel like this is my calling.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And again, one of the things that's always struck me about you is how genuine you are.
Thanks.
Like, there's a lot of people in this business, in the kind of fitness industry or coaching industry that you could kind of just feel, they're in it for the money or they're just trying to accumulate clients. But, you're very, very calculated in what you do and the advice that you give. And I always enjoy the content that you put out online.
Thanks.
And I want to get into that. I want to talk about like how you build a business online, the coaching industry, and what sets you apart from the pack.
Still learning.
Yeah.
Always.
We all are.
I haven't figured it out.
We all are, still figuring out on a day-to-day basis. But to start, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and our listeners as well. Like, what's a little bit of your background, and then how did you fall into the coaching, practice and that industry? Yeah.
Well, I was an athlete, the majority of my life. I mean, I've always played basketball and football, baseball. Then I really focused on basketball as I got older. And I ended up at Marymount University in Washington, D.C. I'm originally from Blacksburg, Virginia, Southwest Virginia. They had an exercise. Once I learned, because I was working out throughout my life, but not consistently a lot in the weight room. But I guess as in my early 20s, I was in the weight room quite often. And then one of my friends was going to Virginia Tech in exercise science. And I was like, damn, you can go to school for this. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do still. I was going to community college. I played JUCO basketball when I graduated high school.
Nice.
I was trying to figure out what my calling was. Like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to like be an English teacher. You know what I mean? But I communications, I thought about going into radio, communications, stuff like that. But then I was like, exercise science, like what is that? So Marymount had a basketball program as a D2 program. I was like, I'd like to start, play ball again, and why not look into going into school for exercise? So and that's what I did. So I ended up getting into school there, and I didn't make it in the basketball program. I kind of got burnt out before I could even get started. But I knew that anatomy and exercise physiology, and I loved helping people. So it was just an easy shift for me to go to school. So I started there in Marymount in Washington, D.C., and got my first job at Gold's Gym, Van Ness, and started training people while I was in school. And I just fell in love with it, like studying it, like diving into anything I could when it came to like, changing people's lives. So from nutrition to, strength, obviously, and weight loss and mobility, mindset, energy systems. Like I really just love to read and, find the people that were getting the best results. So I always say success leaves clues. So I was like seeking out strength coach. And this is before internet, to be honest with you. There was like Perform Better magazine, and they had like, you could buy equipment out of there. And there's also continuing education, people, these experts and gurus that were selling stuff out of there too.
Or the Encyclopedia Britannica. Remember that back in the day?
Yeah. So anything I could get my hands on. And back then too, it was, the ECA conference, and there's Perform Better now. But there was always like some places you could go to for a weekend and study and listen to people that, had been doing it for a long time. That's how I grew my business, and that's how I grew my knowledge.
That's awesome. And what brought you to Miami? How'd you get here?
So I met my wife in Gold's Gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And she went to UM undergrad. She was going to law school at that time at American University. And, I used the old, I'm from Virginia Tech.
Yep.
So Virginia Tech, Miami rivalry.
Sure.
So I used that to my advantage. I knew I was going to get her, but I approached her saying, "Hey, Tech and Miami are playing this week. If Tech wins, I take you out. Something like that." I used some cheesy line that worked.
Yep.
But I ended up, I had a pretty big clientele at that time. And when I left Gold's Gym, this is the days you work from 5 a.m. till 8 at night. This is what I tell trainers all the time. You're like, you sure you want to get into this business?
Yeah, you can't turn it off.
Because it's a burnout industry. If you're not built for that, then it's probably a 3 or 4 year burnout for people. And,
another reason why you gotta love it, right?
You gotta love it.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. But I had a good clientele. My wife's obviously from South Florida, so the DC cold weather got old pretty quick. And I told her, I was like, listen, I'm down. I left Gold's Gym and started the business. I started from scratch. I knew I could start it again, confident in what I can do. And so I sold my business. I sold my clients to another trainer, which may sound weird to people listening. But I was like, man, I got $150,000 worth of clients right here. I'm not walking away from it.
For sure.
And I don't have a job in Miami. I got nothing. So I sold my clients to a friend of mine for $10,000, and he paid me $1,000 for 10 months, and he did. So I was appreciative that he did what he said he was going to do. So I at least had $1,000 a month to get me started when I got to Miami, and I started my business when I got here in Downtown Athletic Club and all over the city, and here we are.
That's awesome. And
20 years later.
And when did the Primal Fit come about and Impact Method? Was that early on, or did that happen later?
Yeah, so Primal Fit, I had my original company was Impact Total Fitness, and it's spelled the way it should be with a K.
Right.
My last name.
Impact.
And but there was so many times that people would go, "Hey, I was looking for you online, man. I couldn't find the website," or "Hey, did you get the email I sent you?" And I'm like, I just spell it.
Yeah.
They obviously spelled it wrong with a T.
Yep.
And I was like, all right, I got to stop messing around here and just change it up. So I ended up changing from Impact Total Fitness to Primal Fit Miami. And that was, I guess, in 2008, 2009. And I was in my garage at the time. And as we spoke off camera, I had ruptured both my patella tendons playing basketball. And that was at
the same time.
Yeah, this was an integral part of my career, to be honest with you, because I never thought about a brick and mortar. I was all over Miami. I was in different gyms. I was at the park, local park.
People's houses.
People's condos.
Yeah.
I was in pools. I was all over the place all day long, and I love that.
Yeah, too, I remember one time I was going through Instagram, and I was going through Dave Grutman's Instagram. I'm like, there's Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wherever you need me.
That's awesome.
I'm coming. I'll come to your house or go outside. And that's what I love about it. Dealing with different personalities.
Yep.
I'm probably ADD. I have that personality anyways.
I think we all are these days.
Yeah. But it works for me. And the challenge of or the lack of boredom, right? Every personality, every hour, I get something different.
Yep.
So it's, I can't deal with Will the way I would with Sally or Dave Grutman. Grutman has a different beast than someone else. So you gotta evolve.
Keeps you sharp.
Keeps you sharp, right? Yep. So, but I ruptured my patella tendons. Here I am training out of my garage in a wheelchair.
Wow.
I can't travel to people's homes. I can't go to Dave's. I can't go to the park anymore. So luckily people came to my house. That's where I started basically the first wave of Primal Fit was out of the garage.
Awesome.
And
true entrepreneur story out of the garage,
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft, how many other
Apple,
big companies come out of there? But it really honed in my coaching skills too. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't demonstrate anything. And then also another client. So I built my clientele in there. I had like 30 people in my garage throughout the day.
Wow.
And one of my clients was like, you should get her, a little spot up the street in Miami Shores. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that. Because it is getting tight in here. I got 400 square feet, and we're in the garage and outside. And I had a great, I was working with MMA fighters at that time too. I was working with John Kelly. That's where I was good friends with John and MMA Masters and Master Cesar and Daniel Valverde and Baboon and all these MMA fighters.
There's a big MMA scene down here in South Florida.
So I was training those guys in the garage too.
Awesome.
So, but I was like, you know what am I leaving on the table here? Like, this is kind of hardcore.
Yeah.
And there's a dead possum in the bushes. There's a house down the street getting a retard. The roof's getting a retard. You know how that is.
Construction noise.
It's 90 degrees in Miami. And that's you know, that's a battle right there.
Right.
There's mosquitoes, right?
Yep.
Like, this is hardcore. So I was like, I'm way to one side. I was like, how many people could I be helping if I brought it to the middle? A little bit more professional.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll look into that brick and mortar, and that's what I did. So right up the street in downtown Miami, that was my first brick and mortar and my first taste of real entrepreneurship.
That was the Second Avenue location. Yeah, it was a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was before that. So 305 Yoga took my space. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, the place was shit. The whole it had just gotten a new owner for the building. I did my first lease and my first build out. So I had to get funds. I didn't have any money. I couldn't get a loan. I think I got a small loan, but the rest came from neighbors. I got 1,000 over here.
Amazing.
500 over here. Got somebody to lend me 10,000. I think my grandmother lent me 15,000. My dad lent me 5. But I built it, and I was able to do the small build out for it was 1,400 square feet. That was my first. So I went from 400 square feet in the garage to 1,400 square feet real brick and mortar storefront. And I guess I was in there for 4 years before that got packed and claustrophobic.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, and I ended up doing it. Probably made one of the biggest mistakes in my career is I went too big too fast. You know, we can talk about that later.
For sure.
But I I had a dream, and I'm always just looking to help more people.
Definitely.
You know, and my love language, if anybody's read the book, The 7 Love Languages.
Yeah, my wife handed me that book as a hint one day.
What is it? The 6 love languages?
I think it's
the 5. The 5 love languages. And I'm a words of affirmation guy. So I really get a reward out of, not only, monetarily, I need to pay my bills, but like to hear somebody say that I changed their life.
Yeah.
I'm always seeking opportunities. I'm addicted to helping people. So I was like, man, I want more.
Yeah.
This place is packed. I think I had probably 70 members at that time. The garage was at 30. I built it up to 70, 75. I was like, man, I want a health center. I was like, I want like a holistic, and that's where I was, with my philosophy anyways, was kind of these 6 pillars that I created later on. And when I wrote the book of the 6 pillars, the Busy Professional Blueprint, but it was all about mindset and recovery.
Yep.
And there's a nutrition element, obviously.
Yep.
And I was like, let me have a nutritionist in this center. Let me have a
cryo.
chiropractor, the cryotherapy, the shake bar.
That was cool.
The training, obviously, the conditioning, massage, stretch therapy. I'm a stretch therapist as well. So, yeah,
it really was a 5-star, state of the art place.
It was, but like I said, I could not get the amount of people I needed to support the overhead, and it was just so stressful. It was super duper. It was like the worst 5 years of my life right there.
I remember being, in the middle of being an entrepreneur, it is painful. It is a painful process. And I tell entrepreneurs, like, you really have to love it, because if you don't love it, you're going to quit. You just are,
And Will, this might be like a lesson to people too, right? Because that's not really my personality either. And the disc test, I'm a true coach.
Right.
Like, and I was to the point where I had coaches underneath me, right? And my business coach was, I asked my business coach, like, where am I?
Right.
Where am I in this order, right? In this org chart. I'm like, what the fuck is an org chart? I'm a coach, man.
Right.
I want to be in the trenches.
You don't want to be an operator. You want to be, in the field with people and really helping them.
That's where I fit. That's what I'm doing. And I was literally like, I'm like, he's like, you're here.
Yeah. You're in
like,
spreadsheets.
You have other people here. This is where I'm like, but I fit here. And I was like, you can wear that hat if you want to. You just got to decide what hat you want to wear, but understand, like, you can't grow this business if you're working in it.
Yeah, so true.
And that's one of the things like I battle with some people, but I want to be in it. Well, if that's the case, you need to find someone else to run this.
Definitely.
Because I was trying to do both, and it just doesn't work.
That you bring up such an important point, and that is self-awareness, right? You need to know who you are and what you enjoy and what and sometimes it takes, figuring that out by just doing it and learning what you don't like and what you do like, just going through that process. You don't know what you don't know, especially in entrepreneurship. Reid Hoffman, who's the founder of LinkedIn, he says being an entrepreneur is like jumping off the cliff and building the airplane on the way down, which is kind of how it feels.
And it's brutal.
Just like, how the fuck do I do this? I don't know, but I'm going to jump off and hopefully I'll figure this thing before I hit the ground. And that's kind of, that sums it up right there.
And some would say, Matt, you need to work on your weaknesses. I'm not so sure about that. I'd like to double down on my strengths.
Ooh, I like that.
I think that's a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is like, man, I'm not very good with that, with finances, or I'm not good with lead gen, or I'm not good with social media. And you're like, then you start to gravitate towards those things to get better at it, where you're much better served doubling down on what you're already good at and hiring someone else to do what they love. And that's what you're not good at.
I love that. Focusing on your strengths and not your weaknesses, investing more in what you excel at versus trying to invest in the things that just don't come naturally to you, because you're wasting the energy you could put in the things that comes naturally. I love that.
I'm not good behind a computer. I'm just not. Like, I need to hire an admin for that. Just like I know when we were talking about podcasts, like, I'm not going to edit.
Right.
You tell me where to be. I'll show up behind the mic. I'm good in front of the camera, but I'm not going to do the work behind the camera. It's not what I do.
I think it's a really powerful point because, again, we only have so many hours in the day, right? And so many units of energy that we could give anything. You really got to make sure you're spending that in the right place.
And it needs to be fun.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like why would you do like even when it comes to exercise, like there's a reason why Sally's not showing up.
Right.
She's not having fun. And it might be, and that's why, it might be Zumba that works for her. I may not be the best person for her, so she's got to find out, or else it's not going to be consistent.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun.
And regarding consistency, that's one of the things I know you preach, right? Consistency over volume. Right? Can you talk a little bit about that and why you
I came up with that. I think so many people, and here's the story. Here's how this works, is where people will come in, it's January 3rd, they're ready. This is not their first January 3rd.
Sure.
They've had this conversation, like they come in, hey, Matt, I'm ready to go, man. I need to lose 50 pounds. And I ask certain questions. I say, that's great, Sally. Tell me more about yourself. How long have you been exercising? Oh, I haven't worked out since high school. Cool. All right, cool. Tell me a little more about your life. Oh, I'm going through a divorce. Okay, got it. This is where I dive deep. I'm taking notes. I need to know more about Sally.
Right.
I'm finding out she has 2 kids. I'm finding out she's an attorney. I'm finding out she's very stressed, and she's not ready to work out 5 days a week. And that's what she's asking me for. I want to work out 5 days a week. I want to get this weight off. Blah 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 blah. Like, what are the chances that Sally's successful on 5 days a week?
Right.
And this is a lesson to some trainers, because most trainers are going to say, I got to get this money. Right. Where I look at it is, I want consistency. I want Sally to be my customer. I want Sally to pay me for years. I want her for 5 years.
Right.
I don't want her for 3 weeks.
Right.
Because that's what's going to happen. Whoever takes that client on as a coach is going to find out Sally's going to be either burnt out in 3 weeks, or she's going to injure herself. She's damn sure going to realize that she has unrealistic expectations, and she's going to fall off completely, and she'll be back next January like she always is. So my thing is, I want to say, hey, let's set some realistic expectations right now, Sally. You haven't worked out since high school. We got 50 pounds to lose. This is not going to happen overnight. You're stressed out. You're burning the candle from both ends. You barely sleep. You're going through a divorce. Exercise is just another stress. So I'd rather have Sally there 2 days a week for 12 months. That's, I think, 104 sessions versus her going 5 days a week for 3 weeks and getting 15 sessions in.
Right.
So I want to teach her that less is more, right? Quality over quantity and consistency over volume. And that comes in with a good coach too, is recognizing, her history and how to provide a solution to the problem. And everybody's solution is going to be different.
Right, exactly. That was another thing we were talking about off camera, was how do we measure health? It's so different from person to person. And again, like we talked about, somebody could be skinny and still be classified as obese, depending on their metrics or BMI or that kind of stuff. So like, how do you
blood work?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So like, when you sit down with a client, how do you measure health, and how do you focus that you're doing the right things versus another client?
Well, there's definitely questionnaires that I have everybody fill out too, like a PAR-Qs and really personal information that I can gather It's about gathering information, man.
Right.
You're like you're like a Sherlock Holmes.
Yep.
I put my Sherlock Holmes hat on, and look, people like that. Like, this person cares, and I do the same thing. Like, it's like when you say somebody's name, I always tell my coaches, I'm like, listen, say people's names often. There's nothing sweeter than the sound of your own name.
Right.
Right, Will?
Right.
Will, over here. That's what I'm talking about, William. Good job.
Right.
And the same thing goes with, I want to ask you some questions. How's your exercise program going?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm curious about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like when somebody feels like, wow, this person's curious.
They're interested in me.
They're interested in me. They want to know more about me, right? So that's important from just giving a shit, which is sometimes the number one thing with keeping a client is, not just showing up on time and, not, having your teeth brushed and maybe having a clean shirt on, but not hurting people. These are basic stuff, but caring, learning people's husbands' names, maybe learning the dog name and the kid's name, and it's being personable, right? Yeah. But I truly think that when you put that Sherlock Holmes hat on and you gathering this information, so you can provide the solution for that, the right solution for that person's problem is everything, and they're more likely it's for rapport and for you're creating a friendship. And credibility from this person, but and setting those realistic expectations. So, I go through an extensive process with questionnaires with people, but also take body fat. So it's called an in-body 570, and there's multiple ways you can take body fat. There's a DEXA scan, there's a bod pod, you can do skin fold analysis. There's all types of ways, but definitely you can't judge a book by the cover.
Right.
The scale doesn't give you everything you need, and neither does looking at someone either. Mm-hmm. And during the COVID era, wow, man, you're hearing now, I've gotten yelled at on Facebook before where somebody goes, healthy people are dying. And I say, how do you know? How do you know, ma'am? Just curious. No, I understand you have a friend, I'm empathetic. You had somebody that passed away or somebody got really sick, and I'm empathetic to your family member. But how do you know that they're healthy? Because they ran a marathon? Because they're skinny? Because they worked out on a regular basis? You don't know what they're eating. You don't know what their blood work. You don't know their metabolic health, what their blood looks like. And are they insulin resistant? You have no clue what their blood markers look like. Right. So sometimes you can't look at somebody who's overweight. Obviously, if somebody's overweight, there can be, there's some stuff they probably need to deal with nutrition and movement and stress and sleep. But sometimes you can be skinny fat. Right. Or TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And that's where the body fat comes in, because it's going to give you those markers. It's going to tell you your body fat, your muscle mass, and also what's most important, which is visceral fat. And that's the fat that surrounds the organs. That's the fat we can't touch, right? So sometimes we have to go deep into saying like, hey, Sally, you look good. Your BMI is normal. Your doctor gave you the green light. Your BMI looks good. You're 23. That's cool. But BMI is just the height to waist ratio. This person doesn't, the doctor doesn't know that she's 35% body fat. And her visceral fat score is a 15. Right. So that's where I come in and I say, hey, can I be your coach and not your friend right now and be real with you? And ask permission to be real with somebody, because I think that's important too. Yep.
Get the full picture.
And then I can say, listen, I think, 2 to 3 days a week is great for you, but we need to really hone in on what you're doing outside the gym.
Yep.
Not just what you're doing inside the gym. And that's where a lot of people go wrong too. They think it's all about the gym or the marathon.
Right. You're big on preaching about movement. Yeah. Always be moving, right? Yeah. It's not just about how much weight am I lifting or, how much can I deadlift or doing curls or whatever the case may be. You're just about constantly being in movement. You think is so important,
or at least seeking it. Yep. We got to be realistic with that too. There's lawyers and people that sit at a desk all day. We can't ask them to work out twice a day. And even then, we run into another problem. Let's just do some quick math, Will. I always do this with people. People are like amazed when I tell them how sedentary they really are. And these are people that work out on a regular basis. No, you're really sedentary. There's 168 hours in a week. And Sally works out 5 of them. That's pretty good. 5 hours, but 5 hours out of 168, she's feeling good about that. When I put it to her this way, she feel like, whoa. I go, Sally, what are you doing the other 163? I'm proud of you. You're getting to the gym 5 days a week, but what's happening the other 163? Let's run through the scenario. Sally wakes up. Yep. She works out before she goes to work. Fantastic. Then she goes to sit down at her breakfast table, right? And then she gets in her car and sits in traffic for an hour. That's Miami traffic, right? And she sits at a desk for 8 hours. Yep. And then she gets up and gets back in traffic for another hour on the way home. And then she goes and sits at a dinner table.
Yep.
And then she sits on the couch. And then she starts it over. She goes to bed and she starts it all over again. So we are a seated culture. That's what we do. So we do have to be more. We have to be more proactive in looking for opportunities to get up out of your chair and move. So this is where I came up with the meal to movement ratio. I think it's brilliant. My wife was like, that's a trademark issue. My wife's a lawyer. I was like, I'm going to call it the M&M diet. She's like, and this is 3:30 in the morning when I get all my bright ideas.
I love it.
She's like, trademark issue. Go back to sleep. Stupid. And I'm like, nah, man, I'm going to work this out. I'm going to figure this out. But I got to thinking about it. So I'm like, even if it's, because I used to say, like, Will, I know you can get up 10 minutes every hour.
For sure.
And do some mobility.
Right. I got the Apple Watch that even bothers me, you know.
Like whether it's doing some, shoulder circles, some hip mobility, or just walking around the office for 10 minutes, right?
Got our EP doing some right now.
There you go. I think that can be seen as a movement session, right? Or a move. Let's call it a move.
Yep.
So Sally got her workout in the morning. There's one move. Sally is doing her mobility in mid-morning. There's a second move.
Yep.
Sally she took her lunch break. She ate a quick lunch and she went for a 30-minute walk. There's a third move, right? She did mobility again mid-afternoon. There's a fourth move. She went for a dog walk after dinner for a fifth move.
Yep.
Right? These things add up. It's cumulative. It really does make a big difference. Not only from a calorie standpoint and a step standpoint, but mentally too. Stress management. How good does it feel to walk the dog? Seriously.
It does.
It feels really nice.
It's a great break in the day, It's
a break in the day. And also just how about for digestion?
Eating, like going and moving after a meal, I think is a huge tip, right? Because oftentimes we stuff ourselves and then we just go fall flat on the couch,
Absolutely.
right?
And that's where we get into the movement to meal ratio, right? Because I don't know if you knew this, but I'm really big. We have a system in place. I have a huge online community and support community where we
You have a great community, by the way.
Thank you.
For everybody listening, they need to check out Matt, particularly on Facebook. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where you're strongest,
mostly,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have a really active community. Everything you post, there's just a lot of people supporting each other. And
there's a lot of interaction. And, and that's what I like to do is, inspire, right? Yep. And the community that we build is, the support community is helping so many people because they're interacting and they're inspiring others and motivating. But it's a fasting community. I preach a fasted, focused lifestyle. Right. And it's because I keep telling people, stop snacking.
What is a fasted focused lifestyle?
Basically, it's like, this is where I can really customize this. Right. They don't have to do long fasts. Some people do 48-hour fasts. Some people do 24-hour fasts, 16-hour fast. But it could be just stop fucking snacking.
Right.
Stop eating all the time. Right. And look, the bodybuilding generation, and I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I came up in that world, right? But in 2003, 2002, I was all about, you got to have 5 to 6 meals a day.
That was like kind of what it was preached at that time.
And it still is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I always say, listen, if that's working for you, then continue to do that.
Right.
But my clientele, my demographic, my avatar is they're busy professionals. Right. And look, if they tell me, hey, Matt, they're a lawyer and they want to get up on stage and flex their muscles and they want to do a show, then they probably need to go that route. But I may not be the right coach for them either. That's okay too. But my people don't have time to cook. Right. And they don't have time to meal prep. They don't have time to weigh and do macros. And
these are busy professionals.
I'm not saying that's not. It's definitely an option, but there's another option too, and it's just eating less meals. And it's so simple and so hard. Some people are like, "What do you mean?" Like, stop eating so much. Yeah. So it could be like, "Hey, Jim or Will, like, listen, you're overweight right now. We can both agree that you're not happy here. You want to make changes, right? So how many meals are you eating a day?" And they say 6. Like, okay, well, how about we take that to 3?
Right.
Like, are we going to get results? Going from 6 to 3?
Yeah.
So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Jim. No snacks. No meal 2, no meal 4.
No eating in between.
21 meals a week, buddy.
No going for the trail mix that has M&Ms in it. Right.
21 meals a week. And I'll get fantastic results with that. Just that. So that's not a fast, but that's me customizing someone's solution. Right? Now I can take that further and say, hey, Jim, how do you feel? Feeling better than ever. Lost 5 pounds. Amazing. How about we skip breakfast now? So now I can go dinner to lunch. There's a 16-hour fast. Yeah. Jim's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. That's amazing, right? And then Jim's getting results, and I say, hey, Jim, let's try one 24-hour fast a week. what? Oh my God, da, da, da. And but he's built confidence already.
Right.
He believes in me. He knows it's working. Like, let's go 1 day a week. Let's go Tuesday night to Wednesday night, dinner to dinner. Right?
Yeah.
Just 1 day a week.
It's baby steps.
So think about the calorie restriction there, the deficit that we're in, right?
For sure.
'Cause that's really what matters, right?
Right.
There's hormonal aspect to this too, but from a calorie deficit, even if I had Jim do just 2 24-hour fasts a week, 2,000 calories per day, it's 4,000 calorie deficit per week now. That's it. But over a month, 16,000 calorie deficit.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is this is an option. I think it's simple. I think it's powerful. I think it's sustainable.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we have a big problem on our hands. There's an obesity epidemic, and that's where I came up with all this. I'm like, enough of this shit.
Yeah.
Because we are really confusing people.
Yeah.
There's an overabundance of information out there.
There really is.
And people, the obese epidemic, the obesity problem we have, they need simple.
Yep.
Let's make it simple.
Yep.
I can basically say eat whatever the fuck you want. Stop snacking.
Right.
Let's start there.
Right.
Because I can't put you on a paleo diet, right? Some people can. Majority may not be able to. Let's just start with doing 21 meals a week, man. I don't care. Eat whatever. You keep consuming what you're eating right now.
Right.
And they're like, wow, I can't believe it. I've been eating Burger King 3 times a day, but I still lost weight. Yes. Then I can slowly start to change quality food.
For sure.
I mean, so there's so many options. It doesn't have to be like drastic.
Right. You can still get your burger, but how about we remove the bun?
You got
right?
it. It can
Stuff
be that,
like
too, right?
You know,
it's just meeting people where they're at, right? Customizing their approach, customizing a solution for them. But eliminating meals can be an option,
right?
And because eliminating meals is just eliminating calories, right?
Right.
So I don't know why we can't talk about it, but it's so like, oh my God, it's so taboo, not eating and not snacking. Well, the food industry doesn't like it.
Right, for sure.
I know that, right? And nutritionists are not going to promote it because that's not what they're taught. So I'm just, it's all semantics. I'm getting people in a caloric deficit through meal restriction versus focusing on calories.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I think intermittent fasting, that word sometimes can intimidate people. But then when you say, we're just going to skip breakfast,
that's it.
You say, what is the 16-8, you do the fast, whatever the hours are. That sounds like a lot, right? Don't forget you're sleeping half that time.
Exactly.
Right? And then you're just skipping breakfast, which usually people sometimes do half the time anyways. It's about being consistent, right?
And then let's say I get somebody, this is where the meal to move ratio came in, which I thought was cool. So if I got Jim finally, say I got Jim eating 2 meals a day now. He's like, I love it. I feel amazing. I got mental clarity through the roof. I got more money in my pocket. I'm not eating out a lot. I don't buy as much groceries. I'm healthier. His visceral fat's gone down. His blood pressure's gone down. His HDL has gone up. His LDL has gone down. His triglycerides, all of his inflammation markers, his blood markers. His doctor's like, wow, man, what's going on? You've lost weight and your blood markers look fantastic. Now I can say, all right, Jim, you're averaging 2 meals per day. Let's get 4 moves. So I like a 1 to 2 work to meal ratio, right? So it's kind of got a ring to it. I think it's kind of cool.
I like that.
So the goal, so if you're eating 3 meals a day, let's try to get 6
movements.
It could be just 10 minutes now.
Right.
One real one workout, and then you're walking the dog, you're doing your mobility. But if you're eating 6 meals a day, obviously it's not going to work.
Not sustainable.
But if you're leading like this non-snacking, fasted, focused lifestyle like I preach, it's not hard to get 4 moves in a day.
And a movement would be what? Anything over 10 minutes of active movement?
That's the way I've kind of done it. Like, look, a 60-minute workout does not work for 6 moves. It's one. It's one move. People have tried that for me. Hey, I worked out for 60. Is that 6 moves? No. It's 1. But the other moves, I think, look, a 10-minute walk, for lunch, right? Or a 10-minute dog walk after dinner. You're just seeking opportunities to move because you have to first recognize that you're sedentary.
Right.
No matter, look, fat people finish marathons all the time. There's overweight spinning instructors. There's overweight aerobic instructors. Now that's more nutrition related too, right? They don't have a movement issue, but maybe they do.
Yeah.
They run once a day, and that's it. That's all they do. They're sedentary if you look at the totality of their week and month. And if you can recognize that and say, wow, I didn't realize it, and then you can start making some changes.
We are sedentary 80% of our day.
For sure.
And that's a fucking scary thing to think about, that 80% of the day we are sitting and not moving, but it's actually the truth, right? If you look at the hours, we're sleeping 8 hours on average, right? And then people are working 7 to 8 hours in the chair, they're driving, right?
Now
we
put
really
that
need
in
to
the
take movement.
now put that in the context with meal frequency for a second.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
6 meals a day.
Yeah, that's
Times 7.
ridiculous.
You're talking about 42 meals a week,
Yeah.
Will. 42 meals, and look at how much you're sitting on your butt.
Right.
What are the chances that most people are gonna be overweight in that scenario?
Yeah.
High.
Yeah.
Very high. So why not change the language?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Sure.
yes, we need to eat better quality food. Absolutely. If it's in a box, limit it. If it has a shelf life, limit it.
Mm-hmm.
If it has an ingredients list, limit it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't drink your calories. These are
Right.
all very awesome things. And that's where I'm aimed to get everybody.
For sure.
Is eating, shopping and consuming foods from the perimeter of the store.
Right.
If it has more than one ingredient, we're going to limit it.
Whole foods, meaning
Whole
only
foods.
if it has more than one ingredient, you need to think twice about it. Right.
Like, I want to get everybody there, but there's baby steps for some people.
Right. Right. Really quickly, I know it's common sense for some people, but tell people what are whole foods, right? Like, people think whole foods, they think of the grocery store. No, what are whole foods? And that can help people pick the right foods to eat.
I mean, like, it's pretty much everything on the outside of the aisle, like whether it be from dairy, could be cheese, could be beef, obviously, fish, asparagus, apple, berries.
Right.
These are what I call fuel.
Right. Yeah.
It is human fuel.
Right.
And that's the way I try to get people to look at it. Look at that is like, what will help you? Like, look at we have this vessel. It's a car. Think of it as a vehicle, right? Most people are putting diesel fuel in a car that is craving and specifically needs supreme unleaded, the best fuel ever, and that's real food. But most people are eating, the majority of their food is boxed.
Right.
And it has a shelf life, and they're not even eating any. There's an economical, socioeconomical, there's a learned behaviors,
Sure.
geographical, where you come from. Like, all these things play a big part in how we eat, and it's a longer conversation we can get into one day. And it's very interesting that it's hard to break that for some people. That's just what they do. What do you mean? What do you mean I can't eat rice every meal, right? And I always say carbohydrates are exercise dependent.
Sure.
The majority of our diet, if you look at the food pyramid, 9 to 11 servings of grains a day. We just talked about insulin resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
About 88% of Americans are insulin resistant. And look at the sedentary lifestyle that most of us lead.
It's a recipe for disaster.
We have too much energy coming into our body. We're not doing anything with it.
It's true.
It should be no. Why are we wondering why we have an obesity epidemic?
It's so clear when you say it that way, right? So again, whole foods are things like a apple, a banana,
eggs,
right? Steak, chicken, right?
Fish. Yeah, simple stuff. But ironically, we're being told that those things are bad for us,
right?
And we should be eating things that come out of a box.
I wonder who's the people telling us it's bad for us, right? Yeah, the food companies, the sugar companies, right?
I wish, and I'm not going to go out on a conspiracy limb right now, but it really comes down to economics. We were talking about that with cameras, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes back down to money in the long run. It not necessarily doesn't have anything to do with health whatsoever. It has to do with economics and bottom line, making profit.
Always comes back to the dollars.
Yep.
There was one of the other things you were telling me about. That's the water level analogy. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Yeah,
I got this from Jordan Belfort, actually, the Wolf of Wall Street. And this just comes to like the sales, right? But I watch a lot of sales videos because I have to persuade and convince people that they need me, and I'm being very honest when I talk that way.
Absolutely.
I'm not a car salesman here, but I have a gift. And I have knowledge and tools that can change somebody's life. Sometimes they don't know that they need me as bad as they do. So I have to go into sales mode. It's best for them, and it helps me grow as an entrepreneur as well. But
absolutely.
A lot of times you have to convince people that the results they're getting they may not be able to see them in the mirror just yet. And I would say the number one reason why people quit or go backwards, right? How many people have I dealt with over the last 20 years that have lost 50 pounds and gained back 60, right? That happens all the time. Or you have somebody that loses 10 or loses 5, and they're doing good for 30 days, and what do? Go back to their old ways. It didn't happen fast enough. But that's because they're focusing on what they can only see on the scale or what they see in the mirror. So the water line analogy is kind of like if you look at a iceberg, right? Like, there's huge, massive mountain of ice, but no one looks below the surface to see just how massive that rock or mountain really is. So I'm trying to convince my people, like, listen, just because you can't see it yet doesn't mean that good things aren't happening. because below that water line, incredible things are taking place and they just can't see it yet. You're talking about blood pressure, energy, sleep quality. They're getting stronger. They're walking to the top of their steps and their cardiovascular endurance is better. They're recovering faster. Their libido is getting better. I mean, I can go on and on and on with internal changes that are happening in a positive fashion that aren't necessarily showing up on the outside yet.
Right.
So that's the water line. Focus below, focus internally before externally. So so I have to educate people on that. Like, hey, you're right. And like, get a paper and a pen out right now, Sally. Get a paper. Let's write it down. Tell me all the incredible things that are happening right now. They're like, there's not a lot. They're in a scale. And I'm like, hold on a minute. Hold on. I know you're not happy with the scale, and I know you're not so happy with what you see in the mirror so far. But let's just really brainstorm a minute here with me, okay? Get a pen and paper out. Write down some cool things that have happened since we've been together the last 30 days. All right, well, I'm not falling asleep mid-morning anymore. That's okay. That's a positive. What about your headaches? Didn't you say you were having headaches? Oh, yeah. I haven't had a headache since when we started. Okay, no headaches. That's good. Acid reflux. You were telling me before you had chronic acid reflux. Yeah, well, I got off that medication. I'm not on Prevacet anymore. Well, that's positive. Let's write that down. Boom. Okay. What about stronger? Didn't you say you were carrying your suitcase? You went on that trip and you were carrying your suitcases and it felt lighter. Oh yeah, definitely getting stronger. And like this list of incredible things starts to form on this piece of paper. And I'm like, Sally, that's below the surface.
Right.
Water line, below the water line. We have to keep going.
For sure.
Because it takes time for the iceberg to poke through the water. So, and I think that's where most people go wrong. They're really over fixated on, physical, which we want, right? That's why they're there in the first place. I get it. But sometimes it takes a coach to kind of regroup.
Yep.
Hold on a minute. We're going to get there, but it's only been 30 days or it's only been 90 days. It took 15 years to put on this 50 pounds, Sally.
Yep.
It's going to take time. So, yeah, that's the water line analogy, and I think it's something that we need to talk more about.
I love that. And I think the most important thing is, how do you feel mentally?
Yeah.
How are your energy levels?
Yeah.
Do you feel good on a daily basis, right? That should be the number one thing versus the appearance, right?
Mental health.
Absolutely. I want to shift into building a business and creating content online because, again, you're really good at that. You're really consistent, and you have a good audience. Like, I'm curious, like, what is your process for putting out content? Because that's like a full-time job almost, like to be focused and dedicated to putting out videos, to putting out tutorials, to writing the posts, to engaging with the comments. Like, how do you prioritize your day so that you're constantly putting enough content out to feed the top of the funnel for your business?
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about that. I think like the queue, like literally kind of having that.
You have a list,
an outline of like what, if it's going to be exercise videos or nutrition or mindset. Like, I do have 6 pillars that I kind of, that's my thing. Mindset, nutrition, strength, conditioning, restoration.
So if you identified those 6 pillars and you say, I'm going to post content under these 6, and
it makes it easier, right? It's a good way to organize it for anybody listening out there. Is like, what's your philosophy? Figure what do you believe in, and maybe kind of identify that, and then you can have these pillars of your business and then underneath them you could create content underneath them.
I like that. And then do you rotate in the same way over the 6 pillars? Or?
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I need to do more mindset stuff, but then you got to realize like, who's listening? We've talked about that too. Like, what do people really want? And I think could be the best question that you could be asking your followers or the people that are looking up to you. Is like, what do you want more of? And I figured out, like, after doing a ton of nutrition stuff, like, people just aren't that excited about nutrition, right? And I think people are more interested in fitness and sweat and exhaustion. And this is a problem with the fitness industry in of itself, a whole another conversation. But, people seek fatigue and people seek exercise and sweat because they think that's how they're going to get results, not realizing that, that's the fun stuff. I get it. But the stuff that happens outside the gym are probably more likely to help you reach your goals and taking your 6-pack abs, sleep and stress management, water intake and recovery, and obviously what you put in your mouth. But yeah, I think it's just figuring out what the avatar wants, what they're craving, what they want more of to get the engagement. I mean, ultimately the goal is to solve problems and figure out what those problems are, which is a great question. What do you want? And then you create the content for the people want.
How many hours a day do you think you spend on content?
Too much. I mean, I really think I it's just the time we live in.
Right. I just want people to get an idea of how much work it actually takes.
I would
to
say
stay consistent.
I probably got it down to an hour a day of
That's awesome.
of posting. Like like I usually do like a morning quote. Like something that interests me or something that's going on in my life. I'll post a quote that may inspire somebody else, and then it may be an exercise video showing somebody's workout. Like, and I always like to give people ideas like, hey, here's how I program workouts.
Right.
And here's a client going through a workout. Here's what our focus was today. And here's how I programmed it just like this. You try this, give it a try, and let me know how it goes at home. And people like that stuff. They do. Like, oh, I did that one workout you had that client doing. It was a good one, So people like stuff like that. Then it could be recovery video in the afternoon, right? Or asking a question. I always think it's really cool to end the day off with asking somebody a question.
To get that engagement.
Yeah, get people actually like responding back.
Yeah, for
sure. You know what I mean? Like, it could be, hey, how are you enjoying your home workouts? Would you rather be in the gym?
Right.
During the COVID era, that you can ask questions like that.
That's a great point, because a lot of times people post statements. They want to make a statement. They want to sound smart. They want to sound intelligent or cool. Yep. It's great to just ask the question and it gives
you an opportunity to respond back.
For sure.
These people want to hear what your opinion is too, and you're like, oh, Karen, that's a great idea, I really like that. Or Dave, I love that, Dave, appreciate you sharing that with me, right? And what this really does is gives you an opportunity to even start a conversation with them through Messenger, right? This is what I do for my coaching program. Like, who's interacting with me? Where I used to be like, oh, thanks, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. And somebody was like, well, are you responding back to these people? They responded back to you. This is an opportunity for you to say, hey, Karen, through private messenger, hey, Karen, appreciate you supporting me in that last post. That's how are you working towards your goals right now? I'm curious.
That's super effective, and nobody puts in that work. Very few people actually do.
It's a lot of work on there. If you go in that realm, but that's how you get a coaching client, or it might be an online client from that. Because Karen's like, wow, Matt Pack just reached out to me. He's curious about my workout and my issues, and she writes back like, yeah, I've been struggling. I just had a baby. COVID, put on the COVID-15. Yeah, I've been struggling lately. Oh, Karen, hey, I'd be happy to help you. Would you be willing to get on a 10-minute call with me? Might be an opportunity for me to help you somehow. Look, that'd be awesome, right? So I have a lead.
That's awesome.
So your post really should lead to a conversation with someone, so you can help somebody and make some money.
I love that. You post, and then you make sure you continue that conversation elsewhere. That's a great tip for those that are listening. And what is your take? I'm curious, because I know you're doing a lot of...
You're curious about me?
I'm curious. I'm interested in you, Matt. That makes me
feel wonderful.
I am interested in you. I'm curious on your thoughts of online Zoom workouts. They're nowadays becoming more popular. Zoom, video chat, FaceTime, doesn't matter. But COVID times, people are doing them more and more. Are they an effective way to train people? Can you do it online?
Evolve or dissolve. I mean, I'm really, and I wish I came up with that, because I think I did come up with that, and then I Googled it, and I'm like, I had someone else
a decade ago. I had that one.
Shakespeare, but I got, or it might have been Winston Churchill. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, I look. It's a part of our culture now. We've been forced into it, and the accountants, the lawyer, and the trainer, they're all doing it. I think we have to. And the answer to your question is, can it be effective? Absolutely.
Yeah, you see yourself with your clients doing it over Zoom effectively, and they're engaged, and
Was I intimidated? I'm not comfortable. Yes. Yeah. But it's so funny. I remember when I first got into it, because I have an online coaching program where I use True Coach. You can use Trainerize, right?
Sure.
These are all video based programming,
right?
And I can send Will like, hey, Will, your program's done for the next 6 weeks, man.
But it's asynchronous, meaning I get it. I consume the content.
It's on your phone, and you hit a button that says do 3 sets of 10 to 12,
right?
And you do it, and you give me a video maybe, but it's a workout created that you watch on your phone and you do it. I'm not involved live, but live workouts are hot. Now that could be a low ticket item, right? Somebody can't afford me to do live. I say, hey, how about I can do this? I'll send you the workouts. You do it on your own. And it's a lower tier, right? It's a whole nother option for somebody. But I remember I was like on video with this person. I'm used to being live with somebody. So I'm like standing, you know, I'm professional. You know, but I'm like, they're not here. So I'm like, I feel like you know, what do I do? Like they're on the phone. I'm in my garage. Like, and I feel like I have to be standing and I have to be like demonstrating and moving and you got it, Karen. We can do it. You know, keep it going. That looks good. That looks good. But now I do it like this. Yeah. And I literally,
you set up your phone.
Yeah, I'm in the kitchen. I do it in the kitchen. I get up, I demonstrate, and I stand, and I'll prop it up, and I'll go, that looks good. Chest up, spread the floor. There you go. Okay, don't forget to breathe. Nice, Karen. One more, finish it. Nice. Way to stay focused on that. Awesome. And you're literally, and I don't feel bad about it anymore. Somebody's paying me good money, but I'm sitting down in my kitchen, and I'm doing it with my phone. And yeah, they're going to get results.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
I like to be with somebody. I really like being physically with someone when I train, but this is the way it is. The trainer needs to understand they can have that possibly too, right? There needs to be these levels of service.
For sure.
Can't be just in person anymore.
Right. You got to tailor it to how it fits their lifestyle. A couple more questions I want to definitely get into. Again, the business side of things is standing out in a crowded market, which you're certainly in. There's a lot of people in the fitness space online, a lot of, you know, what do they call it? Fitspiration. There's all the personal trainers and different stuff. You've always done a great job, you know, from my vantage point, standing up from the crowd. Again, a lot of that is due to you, your personality, how genuine you are. Unfortunately. Yeah. And how much you care about your audience, which I can tell. But for those that are listening, a lot of people operate in crowded markets. How do you go about standing out when there's a lot of competition in the space and cutting through the noise and not just being like what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, to stand out in a crowded market, like the way I look at it is there's so many people to help.
Right.
Like I have an abundance mindset. Like there's competitions in Miami, there's a gym on every corner. Like for me, I've always felt like I need to create raving fans, right? And there's a great book I read called Secret Service a long time ago. I think all entrepreneurs should read this book called Secret Service. And no, it's not about Secret Service that follows around the president. It's literally about creating a service system in your business where people, you're treating people so special that they leave and they want to go tell all their friends about it. So it's not just about making people tired in my industry. It's just not. I can make anybody tired. But do you know their name? Do you know their son's name, their dog's name? Are you remembering their birthday? You know, or are you sending them a card? Like you want to create this raving fan where they feel so special and they're getting results all at the same time. You're not injuring them. They're showing up on time. The basics. Hey, Karen, welcome. Hey, Jim, welcome. Thanks. Great work today. Jim, keep it going, baby. They get done. Thank you so much for coming. Like these are common sense stuff. Yeah. Appreciate you coming, man. Have a great day. Thanks for coming today. Like that's something I instill in my coaches all the time. They show up through the door. You welcome them. They leave. Thank you for coming. You give them a quality workout. You don't hurt them, and you have conversations like you're a friend. You create a friendship. They're less likely to leave if you have a friendship with them, and obviously you get them results. Right? So I think it really comes down to some of it's common sense. Others is creating a system in place where that's so service oriented that they feel special. Yeah, you wanted them to feel special while they're there. So if you do that and you're getting results at the same time, they're less likely to leave. Right. And they're more than likely to tell their friends. So you're going to get referrals. Yeah, make it feel like you care and make it a warm environment, and that'll get from there. Check up on them, text them. Hey, Karen, how you feeling from your workout? Like that and social media, man. Yep. It takes up a lot of my time. I'm sure. Yeah. I want them to know I'm thinking about them. For sure. Checking in on you. Maybe another tip, because you're really good at it. Any tips for remembering people's names? Saying it often.
Saying it often.
Because it is hard. It is hard for me. You know, at my height, 120 members.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of people to keep track of. Yeah,
it's a lot. So I really always go like, Karen, that's what I'm talking about. Stanley, let's go, baby. You know. So I am always saying people's names, and I'll go, hey, Billy, my coach, Billy, what's the girl's name right there? Oh,
yeah.
Sarah, what I'm talking about. You know, or somebody I can't pronounce. There's always somebody that
especially in Miami.
In Miami, or somebody I like, oh man, I'm from Virginia. Yeah. Why can't you just be Dave, or Chris, But there's times I don't remember how to pronounce somebody's names, or I just forget. So it's all about just saying it often. Yep. Because I do know psychologically how important it is to the human brain for somebody to hear their own name.
It's so important.
It makes them feel great.
Yeah, this is awesome. A lot of good tips. I think one of the other things you wanted to talk about, we had a marker for it, is growing big too fast, and some of the things that happen. How do you know when that's happened? Like, what are some markers that entrepreneurs can feel based on your experience that they can kind of have like red flags, or I might be growing a little bit too fast, just to know, just kind of slow down a little bit and reassess?
I wish I knew that the real answer to that.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book right now called The Business of One. I think it's called The Business of One.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we all want to grow and help more people. And I think staying small and like, I wish I listened to my wife. Listen, if you're listening out there, if your wife gives you any advice, it's mostly right. It's probably a 99% chance that your wife is correct. So stop it. Leave your ego and trust your wife, right? Because I remember her telling me, Matt, like, just stay small, 1,400. Yeah. Start a waiting list. Why do you want it to stress to have more? So less is more sometimes. And even now more than ever, the brick and mortar is, I'm not even sure anybody needs a brick and mortar at all.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's true.
Just go online and save the overhead and just have one, just Matt Pack, right? Yep. And I always just kept listening to people say, like, you have a job, Matt. You have a job. I'm like, yeah, I do, but you're not a business owner. You have a job, and I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah, and you're like, oh, you can't grow your business if you're working in it. You need to be working on it. And I kind of fell into that, like, oh, okay, my mentors are telling me I need to work on it and not in it. I need to get off the floor, and I need to hire trainers to, I need to create another Matt Pack and duplicate myself. And when I got in trouble was like people wanted me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I'm not an Orange Theory.
Right.
I'm just not.
Yeah, you're not infinitely scalable.
And you know what? And from a business standpoint, the mistake I've made too, even though if I had systems in place, is I can't be duplicated.
Right.
I've Orange Theory just done an incredible job. F45, Barry's Boot Camp, all these brands are incredible. They can put them anywhere in the world, and one coach can teach 40 people.
Right.
I didn't create that, and I was never able to do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And I should have just realized it's just me. People are coming here from me. And been okay with that. So I don't know the answer to your question. I think it's just total individual and learning.
Yeah, you got to censor yourself.
From your mistakes.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Because that's what I did, right? I went to 50. I went from the garage 1,400 to 3,000. No, 5,500. Excuse me. I went garage to 1,400 to 5,200.
Yeah.
And I was like, and now I'm back. Guess where I'm at? 2,000 right now. And I'm loving it.
Yeah, well, I think that's a terrific answer because you tried to stretch yourself. You found what your capacity was, and you said, you know what? I can't operate well at this capacity. Let me scale back a little bit, and this is my sweet spot.
So the lesson may be like, let's look at your sleep.
Yep.
Let's look at your stress management.
There you go.
How your relationship is with your wife and your kids.
Yep.
And that should tell you, because if you're can't pay the bills, you don't have no time to spend with your children, and you can't sleep at night, you're probably gone too big.
Right. Absolutely. You have to be self-aware and be in touch with all those markers. That's a great tip. Great tip. Matt, this was awesome. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it.
Having me.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, for folks that are listening, where could they find you? What's the best way to get in touch?
My website is primalfitmiami.com. Matt Pack on Facebook. Instagram is Primal Fit Miami. Yeah, so I'm out there, trying to be out there.
Awesome, great. Well, we'll drop all of Matt's info in the description on how you could reach out to him. And yeah, Matt, thank you again, brother.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Will.